Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Chapter 7, Section 6. We're talking about an idea called absolute value today. Here is the vocabulary that you need to know. The big thing that we're talking about, absolute value, is the number's distance from zero. It's denoted by two vertical bars that surround the value here. So we've got two vertical bars around x. So that's one thing we're going to make sure we take a look at there. So what we're talking about, when we evaluate our absolute value, what that means to us is we are looking as to far in terms of, so we're looking at the absolute value of 4 here. We're looking in terms on a number line. Here is 0, here is 4. How far is that away from 0? Okay, so in this case we've got, it is 1, 2, 3, it is 4 spots from 0, so our answer is 4. Alright, so now if we take a look at -8, what we've got here is we have the same idea. So we've got, there's 0, here's -8. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so 1, 2. If we take a look at this, the distance from 0 to -8 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots. So the distance, or the absolute value of -8, is 8. Basically what we're saying here is anything that is inside of these values here turns into a positive number. So whenever we solve or do anything in here, whenever it's inside the value, it's a positive number. So now, if we take a look at this next example, we have negative of the absolute value of 6. What this is saying is that we start off with an answer of 6, but this negative sign's on the outside, so it's attached on, so our answer here is -6. And that's all because of the negative being on the outside. Now we have in here in the last example, we've got negative of the absolute value of -3, or the opposite of the absolute value of -3 would be other way of saying this. What's going to happen is people are going to have the urge to go make these two into positives. We don't. We do not touch this outside negative. It stays there. The absolute value of -3 is a +3. The negative stays on the outside, so that's going to give us an answer of -3 for a final answer. 99% of the time, your answers for absolute values will be up here and be positive. The only time they will ever be a negative value is when you see a negative sign on the outside of our absolute value function. Okay? So now we're taking a look at solving with the absolute value in functions. So we've got the absolute value of x is -6 equals 12. So how we solve this is we solve this like a two-step equation. We treat the absolute value function, so the absolute value is like parentheses. Alright, so we treat them last. So in this value, or in this equation here, +6, we're going to +6. So now we have the absolute value of x equals 18. So now, what values can give us an answer of 18, because this is not a good enough answer because the x is not completely alone because of the absolute value signs. What we need to do is we need to write this so that the x is completely alone. We're getting rid of the absolute value sign. So what that means is if we think about the previous slide, the absolute value of a number that could give us 18 would be a +18 as well as a -18. So what we do is we add this plus or minus. So whenever we want to get rid of an absolute value function to make it a positive or just give it a value of x, we write a plus or minus in front of the value there. Okay, so let's take a look at the next aspect. We have the absolute value of x minus 8 is equal to 12. So now we look in here, and now we have the minus 8's inside of our absolute value function. So now we need to get rid of the absolute value function first. So we want to rewrite this as x minus 8. And we think about what we do just last problem. Whenever we got rid of this absolute value sign, or the vertical bars, we had to write plus or minus on the other side. So that gives us an answer of plus or minus 12 on the back side. This turns this into two different equations. Yeah, mind-blowing, people. We have x minus 8 is equal to a positive 12. We have x minus 8 is equal to a negative 12. So then we solve each of them individually. So we're going to have an answer of 20 and an answer of negative 4. So we've got two answers that if we threw that into our absolute value equation back here at the top, we would get an absolute value of 12. If we think about it, 20 minus 8 is equal to 12. So that's the absolute value of 12 is 12. We have negative 4 minus 8 gives us negative 12, and the absolute value of negative 12 is 12. So that's why both of those work. So the last one is a complex one as well. We have 3 times x plus 2 plus 3 is equal to 9. So we treat this like a two-step equation again. We're going to minus 3 on each side. So what's that? That's going to give us 3 parentheses x plus 2 is equal to 6. Then we're going to, because this 3 is on the outside of the absolute value and it's right next to it, that means it's multiplication. So we're going to divide by 3. So we have x plus 2 is equal to 2. And to get rid of the x, or the absolute value, we write it as x plus 2 plus or minus 2, which gives us two equations. Like so. So now we minus 2 and minus 2. That gives us an answer of 0 and negative 4. So we have two answers there that could work, 0 and negative 4. Throw that back in to check, and we would have 0 plus 2, that's 2, times 3 gives us 6, plus 3 is 9, so that's good. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. The absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2, times 3 gives us 6, plus 3 gives us 9. All right, so that's how both of those answers work from there. Okay, so now the last thing I said was that graphing we have an intro to graphing here. Basically what this is going to look like, ladies and gentlemen, the absolute value function is a pattern like a V. The absolute value of x, if we make a quick graph here, is going to look like so. Alright, the absolute value of x, the absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 2 is 2. 3 is 3. So the values are going to go up this way. Now, normally normal lines would go down and to the left in this situation, but if we think about it, the absolute value of negative 1 is a positive 1. Negative 2 is a positive 2. Negative 3 is a positive 3. So our value here goes up like so, and it gives us a V-shaped. The values mirror each other over the y-axis. If we think of the next example, we have x minus 3 inside the absolute value function. What that is saying is when we put in 0, we 0 minus 3 gives us a -3, but the absolute value of -3 is 3. So now our graph's going to start over here. It's going to move to the right, and then from there it gives us our normal V-shaped graph from there. And we'll talk more about transformations and so forth that go on in this aspect. We're going to talk about that more next chapter, but just giving you a preview. And then we have the absolute value of x, and then plus 4. So if we put in 0, the absolute value of 0 is 0. Plus 4 gives us 4 up this way. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we have a value here of 4. So now our graph goes up, and then it follows the same up 1 over 1, up 2 over 2 pattern that we've got there. All right, so that's the absolute value. If you have any other questions, make sure you let me know. Have a good day.